Okay, welcome to Freedom Hustles podcast. This is episode 23. My name's John Banks. I'm from sideincommand.com. I'm with Andy Lehman over at the Freedom Skills Academy. So, Andy, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad yourself. I'm busy at the moment, client work, which is quite apt.
Yes, client work indeed. So that leads nicely onto the subject of tonight's talk.
Nicely crowbarred it in there.
Nice segue into that. So you're busy with client work. Wow, that's great.
Yep.
Just so happens that tonight we're going to be talking about client work. So basically we're going to be talking about client work, what it is, what you can do, how you can get it, how much you should charge for it, and why you shouldn't dismiss it. I know we often talk about, on this show and on the website and throughout our own channels about the whole kind of passive incomes, which is great. That's the dream, and waking up in the morning to find money in your bank, which it happens to a degree, but you shouldn't, I don't think, especially when you're starting out, you definitely shouldn't dismiss the client work. And like you say, we've been fortunate over the last few months to get a fair bit in, which has been handy. It's a nice important part, certainly, of both of our incomes. So that's what we're going to be talking about, right?
Yep, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to being doing a bit of client work. A hell of a lot, really, because basically, I mean, we've got some specific skills, what I call freedom skills, which basically allow us to make extra money working from home. If things are getting a bit hard, if things are getting a bit iffy, we don't have to go out trying to find an evening job or anything where we have to go and work where we don't want to. Client work is great because we've got the skills, we can do it from home. It's like, and the great thing about what we do as well is because we now sort of developed these skills in specific industries, it also means that when we get client work, we can actually practice and master what we're doing on somebody else's money.
That's right, yeah.
So it's go on, sorry.
Yeah, I know what you were saying. Yeah, like that's a really important part of it, isn't it? Like, for example, quite a common one is the sort of social media account manager, isn't it? Like you can basically run someone's social media account for them. You could set that up as it could be a one-time fee. I've done this the other way around, actually. I've paid someone else to manage one of my social media campaigns. But then, like you say, if you flip it around the other way, where you become, the freelancer, you're actually learning a hell of a lot of the time. Although you will have a certain amount of skills, otherwise they wouldn't have hired you. But let's say they're paying you, I don't know, $300 a month, to run their Twitter account. However, on top of that, they give you, say, $200 a month that they want you to spend on ads. So they'll give you the $300 for you to run it all, and then $200 as capital to run, to actually spend on ads for them. All of a sudden, you've got this whole bunch of data, which you're going to be getting every month, courtesy of their spend.
Yeah.
So like you said, that you can learn from that. And that can be really useful. I mean, just sort of going back a step, what sort of things are we talking about here? I mean, over the whole of this podcast, we've mentioned it loads of times. I mean, one for mine, it's web design. So I do a fair bit of web design for clients, and I really, really, emphasize the point, especially if anyone's starting out, that go local. Literally aim local. Look in your local town, your local, maybe on the school one, or you might know people in the pub, or that's where you should start, because that's where it quite often starts like that, doesn't it? And then it can lead to other things.
I always remember years ago, I mean, it was probably just an excuse to go to the pub. And it's a slightly different industry, but my uncle, when I used to work as a joiner, I used to work with him, and he always said that majority of his work used to come from going to the pub.
Yeah.
You know, it was all sort of local work. We live in a world where we can find work online from all over the place. At the moment, I'm currently working for a guy. I'm not sure whereabouts in the UK he is, but I can do that because I can. You know, we have the internet. But like you say,
Yeah.
when you're first starting out, especially things like web design, there's so many people who need websites in your area.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
you like you said, you can be at the school gates talking to somebody. You can dish out a card. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much. But the great thing, like I said, about especially in the early days as well, especially for people starting out, doing client work is a great way to learn. You get paid to learn. So imagine, like you say, you're doing web design, but you've never done a membership website, but somebody asks you to do one. It's a
Yeah.
great opportunity to do. I think I can't remember the actual quote, but there was something by Richard Branson that said basically, if an opportunity arises but you don't know how to do it, take it anyway and learn. And basically, he was
Definitely.
just trying to say the same thing: get paid to learn, to master your
Yeah.
skills. But,
Yeah. Go on.
that was basically you.
Yeah. I mean, that's perfect point, because my first web design gig, my first ever one, was was a cottage. A guy had sold up, and he had bought a load of cottages, and then he wanted to rent them out as like bed and breakfasts and stuff. So he wanted a fully functional booking system on, like, almost like a hotel booking system, but like for these cottages, where he wanted it all online. And Christ, I was like, this is my first ever gig. Like you say, I took it. I went, yeah, I'll do that for you, no problem. And then when he showed me the sort of draft of what he wanted doing, I was like, Jesus wept. But yeah, I managed to do it. I just went off, learned how to do it, trial and error, got there in the end, and he was happy with it, and it delivered, and it worked. And then it gives you a bit of confidence then to kind of take on the next job, and perhaps charge a bit more. And quite often with these things, you only need one a month, and that all of a sudden then becomes a nice little side hustle. And as we've talked about before, once you develop systems, templates, strategies of working, you find your own comfort and you find your ways of working, then all of a sudden these jobs don't take 3 weeks anymore. They take 3 days, and before you know it, you're doing all right out of it. So yeah, I mean, don't dismiss work. Yeah, put it like you said. Yeah, don't turn it down. No, definitely not.
Especially like if you're not really sure, but if it's something that you want to do or it's something that you think you can do, then give it a whirl. Because I mean, what else? What's the worst thing can happen? You're getting paid to do the job, so you're going to make sure that you learn to do it properly, and you're going to deliver. You're not just going to suddenly run off with the guy's money. So you're going to make sure that you deliver the best, and it's for your own benefit. And the other thing is when you do these kind of works for the people, it benefits you in the long run because you've got a portfolio of examples. And if you've done a great job as well, you've got yourself testimonials, which are for recommendations. And as you know, whether it be a sales letter for a make money product, or if it's a testimonial, if it's a website that's selling web design, testimonials are
Huge
things that you need to have. Basically, people don't trust what you say, but they'll trust what other people say.
Yeah.
So if they're praising you for good work, and that's one thing. It's always, if we were just talking about this the other day, it's kind of similar for people who leave university. They're trying to go and find jobs, but they've got the degree, but they go out there and then the job says, yes, but you need 2 years experience. It's like, how do you get the experience? You haven't got the experience. It's a struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
At least when you're starting up and you do client work and you get those testimonials, then that is proof that you have kind of got the experience. So
yeah,
definitely take on client work. I mean, it's, but like you say, once you've got to know the skills, you can do things faster and you can charge more. I'm not going to mention prices now, but I'm doing some client work at the moment, which I do in the evenings, which is, it's a nice little extra sort of income. I haven't got to faff around. We're used to doing things like with eBay. I used to sell records on eBay.
yeah.
I have to photograph them, stick them on there, wrap them up in cardboard, go into town backwards and forwards for a fiver. Now I'm just sat here with my mug of tea and getting paid handsomely for it. So
yeah, no, it's really good. And like you say, and then you get to those points by you get to those positions, where, like you say, you've managed to secure yourself, a fairly long-term gig, actually, because we've talked about it off air. I know a little bit about this, and and you don't just get there straight away. Yeah, but like you said, building up a portfolio, building up your confidence, building up a load of testimonials. Once you get that social proof, and once you get that portfolio, because don't forget, every time you build something, that's evidence. Every time you write something, that's evidence. Every time you help somebody out, every time you increase someone's social following by 50%, or any of the metrics that they want, that's all evidence and that's all proof, which like Andy, like you said then, keep hold of them, keep a log of them. If you've got your own website, document them. If you've got your own Instagram channel or LinkedIn account, share all of those testimonials out there for everyone to see. And then you can kind of grow from there. The first couple of gigs you do, you may have to underprice yourself. You may have to sell them cheap. You might even have to do a few freebies, right, to get yourself off the ground. But when you do that, that's great, because then, like we've just talked about then, it builds you up. You get one or two good testimonials, and that can then totally transform your business. And then before you know it, you could land, in your case, monthly contracts, where people don't want to just do one thing. They want you to continuously work on a project for them.
I mean, going back
does
to
have that effect.
Going back to the freebie idea, like you said, I just saw, I think it was last year, someone in a Facebook group, young web designer, offering to do 5 websites free for the first people who answered, local businesses. And you may not be making any money out of it particularly, but you're getting a lot of value out of that, because practice makes perfect. So the more you do something, the better you become, and that itself is a knock-on effect. Because, like they say, if you're going to be a good writer, you need to write every day. But unless you've got clients, sometimes people can't be bothered to write, or I've got no reason to write. Whereas if you're a writer and you've got clients, you're writing every day, so you're mastering the skill and getting paid for it. But one of the other things I find really useful about client work is it's not necessarily just like you're earning money. I mean, the money's fine; it helps with all the stuff. But if you can use that, it's extra money for your own sort of projects. So for example, let's say that you are wanting to build an email list, but you need to build an email list by sending traffic to your landing page, and you need to do that by running adverts on Facebook or wherever. If you haven't got any money, then you either got to put it out your own wages, or you've got to find, by taking on client work, even though it kind of robs you a bit of that extra time to work on your own projects, it helps fund them without having to take the money out of your own own pot. So it kind of, like I say, not only are you learning your own craft, not only are you mastering your craft, you're getting a portfolio, you're getting experience, you're getting testimonials, but you're also getting a way to fund your own projects or your own business.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to go back to that idea when you said then about you heard someone that in a local Facebook group, how, popping in, fancy 5 free websites or whatever. I mean, how simple is that idea? I mean, that's a great idea, for anyone just starting out. I think we mentioned it on a few episodes ago. We talked about WordPress, which is a platform that we use. I mean, this is very specific now for anyone that does this, right? For anyone that builds websites or is thinking about getting into it, or perhaps you know how to build websites, yet you've never sold them, or you've never built websites for anyone else. Now, for example, WordPress, we know about it, right? And there's a page builder on there. There's loads of page builders, but there's one of them called Elementor. Now, once you get fairly clued up on how to use that, you could build a 5-page website, okay, with everything laid out as you would want it, right? For just a generic layout, okay, which kind of fits all local businesses, say, your hairdressers, your electricians, your plumbers, your dog groomers, anything local that would work, okay? So you could have a simple 5-page site. Now, with Elementor, you have the ability to save every single page as a template, okay? So you could, in theory, make a page instead of having a logo on there, you just have a blank space that says insert logo here. And then you have an about page, which says insert picture, insert text of whatever. So real simple, but all laid out. If you save every single one of them pages as a template, that then becomes a 10-minute job to recreate that again, maybe even quicker than that on the next website. Okay, and then another 10 minutes on the next website. And then if you post that into that Facebook group, so I'm going to build 5 businesses for local websites, totally free. All I ask is that you pay for your domain, your hosting. That's where, if you're clever, you get them to sign up through your affiliate link and you make some money that way. But anyway, and then you say, I'll take care of everything. And then you just build the sites for them, and you could do one an evening easy, couldn't you? And there you go. Then all of a sudden you got 5 testimonials, 5 people that are going to share your stuff, 5 people that are going to recommend you to other people, 5 people that are going to talk to their colleagues and their friends at the school gate and friends in the pub or whatever. And before you know it, there's your business. It starts, and that's how it starts. So that was a really good point there, yeah.
There's also, I mean, you can also do the 5 free websites. Basically, because some businesses will be like, oh, I need a website. I like that, looks good. Yeah, I'll go for that. And you can say, I'll build you that for free. Like you said, you pay for the hosting, but there'll be like a monthly retainer sort of management fee.
Yes, of course.
So you could actually even get, they'll get a free website and will be happy as Larry, but you've actually landed 5 clients without them particularly realizing that they're paying £10-15 a month for you to manage their website. So if you ever need a photograph changing, they'll come to you and just ask you to do
update
it.
the plugins, that sort of stuff, which is what we talked about before. It needs doing. But yeah, so there are some other angles. Obviously, I don't just want to talk about just website client work, but yeah, there's a whole host of stuff. I mean, pretty much anything online these days will require some form of expertise, whether it's growing social media accounts, whether it's, in your case, writing, copywriting, social media, advertising. I do a lot of graphic stuff, so flyer design, logo design, web design we've talked about. But you could even go back a little bit more, even if there's stuff that you may do in your working life, in your day-to-day job, and you fancy a little bit more on the side. I know people that are very, very good at things like Excel, Office and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually teach that as a kind of separate side hustle. So they've had people with, on Zoom calls, and they'll do like an over-the-shoulder stuff, and they'll go in and they'll show stuff like half hour and things like that. So there's a whole load of stuff, that you can do. I think, like we said at the beginning, start off local. Go into your local Facebook groups, have a look in the post office shop window, and there's always people looking for stuff. I think
about client work, I'm not intending to be doing client work for the rest of my life. Right. It is a stepping stone, like I say, for generating extra revenue, and it's also going back to the practice. But while it's there, you might as well take it until you're in a position where you don't necessarily need to. And I probably don't actually need to myself, but the work is there, and it's just extra money for putting towards my own projects and making life a lot more sort of enjoyable. It's like the good thing about once you've developed certain skills and that's what you want to get into, like you said with the idea that you created templates with your websites, you can do things a lot quicker. But it's also the security of it is a lot better, because there's nothing worse than needing money and then having to go out and find a job. If you've got a set of skills that you can enjoy and that you do, and it becomes to a point where you become the person, taking client work. I mean, there is issues with some client work. Sometimes clients don't pay up, or there's, they can be a nightmare. They want this, that, and the other, and then they can try and get you to do more than what you've quoted for. It can sometimes be a bit of a pain in that respect. But I've actually been pretty good, to be fair. I've had all good clients that I can say for now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just one of those things that you haven't got to go. I mean, we are talking obviously about doing client work while you're doing other work, but we haven't had to go out there looking for another job. And you see these people who are struggling and they've got 2 jobs. They've got the kids at home and they're working in a bar or a chip shop at night trying to get some extra pennies in. you know, you and I have got the skills, and we do work for people that probably earns far more than what these people do. Do you know what I mean? And it's actually quite pleasurable. It's stuff that we do.
Yeah, it's
You
nice.
know,
I don't mind it. Like you say, it's not. Yeah, like you say, it's not the holy grail, but I think we all need to be, you know, come down a peg, don't we? And you know, like you say, if it's there, if people want it, and ultimately it's a service that you can deliver. You know, you can make people happy. You can get people going with something else that they want. Then you know, why not? You know, and I've had one. You say you've had everyone, you know, most of the clients, or if not all of the clients you've dealt with, touch would have been okay. I mean, I've had no problems really, but I did have one. Um, I won't go into detail, but basically, it was the guy said, what I don't like, especially again coming from a web design point of view, and this probably applies to anything, but one little tip is before you start the job, make sure you've got as many details about it as you can, because I done a job once where the guy basically said, "Oh, just you know, you do it, or I trust your, you know, your setup and your layout and your color palette, and you know, you do the logo, you do everything." And I was like, "Okay, you don't mind, I'll do it all." Yeah, yeah, that's fine. So I'd done it and I spent ages on it, and I even showed him, I think, two or three different examples before I obviously went fully into it. But then when I'd done it all, so I'd done the whole site and I'd done it all in this pattern of this particular color palette. The font
mhm.
was, you know, themed throughout the whole site and everything, the logo and everything. You know, it was all branded. And he went, "Yeah, it's great, but I really don't like that color and that sort of font. Is there any way we can change all that?" And I felt like saying, Jesus Christ, you know, this is what happens when you get someone, when you say, "I don't mind, you do it all." I'd always tread on the edge of caution with that.
Well, I'm going to echo what you just said there, because that reminds me of. I don't know if anybody who's listening knows my sort of history. You know, I spent a lot of years working as a joiner, carpenter in the building industry, and I've worked in both on sort of in workshops, on sites, and in people's homes. And there's been several times where I've worked in a joiner's workshop and people have done the similar thing. They've wanted a window making, they wanted a door making. They've come in, got the measurements, they give the measurements, it's on a scribbled on a piece of paper or the back of a cigarette packet.
Yeah.
And we always had this motto, and that was, you can never have enough information.
Mm.
Because there's been times people have come in and they said, we want this window making. It's like, okay, so what size material are you looking for? What mold are you after? What? Oh no, it's okay. Just as long as it fits into this and you do this. And so you
Yeah.
spend all this time machining up timber. I mean, we're looking at like probably a couple of £100 worth of timber by the time we finish. I mean, I've worked on doors, oak doors, and some New Zealand hardwood door, ironwood doors. What was it? There was a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
black wood we used, and they
Expensive
were
stuff. Yeah.
ridiculously expensive
Mm.
stuff. And then you can't mess around with those kind of jobs. But we have worked on jobs where people have come in and later on and gone, "Oh no, I didn't want it like that." And it's like,
Yeah.
you've given you the exact opportunity. At least with now with the writing and with the websites, you lose time, and it's digital. But when you
It's
work
not
in
like
like
you've
a joiner's workshop,
paid for stuff up front. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and that is one thing. That's a very, very good tip when it comes to whatever you're doing with a client work. If you need to create a checklist of questions or
Yeah.
like a boxes to fill out, make sure you get all the information up front that you need.
Yeah.
Make sure
Definitely.
everybody's clear. I mean, some people would say for client work, you get yourself a contract written up and signed, because again, you've got to outlay, or you've got to outline what work they are getting for the price.
Yeah.
I've worked, we fitted out an Indian restaurant many years ago where they kept saying to the electricians, "Oh, can you just do this? Oh, I want to swap it for that. Can you do this?" And then when they came later on with this huge bill, they were like, "Oh, I'm not paying that." It's like, "Well, you asked for that." "Oh, yeah, that's not what you
You
quoted."
kept on changing it all.
They
Yeah. Yeah.
kept changing
Exactly.
it. So you've
Yeah.
got to make sure that you stipulate what is involved in that price. And then if they want something else, you say, "Well, yeah, I can do that, but
Yeah.
that's going to be an extra 20 quid or an extra
That's what I
50
can't
quid."
understand. Like you say, I can't understand how these Fiverr guys, you know, like some of them will say like, you know, they do like I don't know, a 5,000 word blog article for $20 with unlimited revisions. I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, you're bound to get one or two of those bad clients that
Mm.
are really, really just gonna, You know, they just oh no, you just change that paragraph. They could do it themselves at that point. You know, anyone that spends $20, you're not going to get perfection, no way. But yeah, it's the same for anything. Like say, I've done it with website stuff, and soon after it becomes a bit of a, and then after that, you kind of, I don't want to sound like, I'm not saying this is what you should do, but you are kind of a bit selective then of what you take on job wise. If you don't need to do it, then you kind of go, I'm not sure about this one.
Exactly. I mean, there are people who can write email sequences. They can charge, even articles, they can charge several $100s, several £100 for like an article. You only need to really sit and write 1 or 2 a week to make the equivalent to a 40 hours work wage. So why, if you don't need it, why would you try and take on 10 or 20 articles at say $10 or $20, £10 or £20, when you can actually find that one which you can do in a relaxed atmosphere and earn 3-4 times as much?
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean,
so if it's fit, so if the job fits, you know, if you think it's suitable, and if it's money's there, then go for it.
I mean, I could, if I wanted to, go to Fiverr and try and fight for scraps, like you say, for loads of, try and get as many writing gigs as I need to, but I don't need to. I've got this one client who's paying me, and I'm just sort of sat focusing on that one job in a relaxed, chilled manner.
So let's start wrapping up then.
Yeah.
So that's a good little way to end it, really. So you just mentioned Fiverr. There are a few options for people that are just starting out. Should point out, you may not get premium, you may not get top prices. I always advise what we've just talked about now, and that's actually, you know, like the local route, almost starting off. But if you don't, you know, get much success that way, you can go to fiverr.com, you can go to Odesk. Another one's called peopleperhour.com, I think, or .co.uk, one or the other. But they're all the same, basically. The job boards, you can post up, you know, I'll build you a 5-page website for whatever. You're going to have to go in cheap, though, unfortunately, because you are competing with the rest of the world. But that said, it's a nice little, can be an okay starting position if you're not worried about, you know, your time at that point. So, yeah, go ahead, start off. My sort of closing tip really is look locally. I mean, look around your town, look around the pub, people you speak with, even people at work, your day job. Like say, people, if you pick the kids up from school, blah, 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 those little 5-minute windows can often lead to potential work if that's what you want.
Definitely. Can I just quickly echo that as well as if you look in your, not so much now at the moment with the lockdowns and the COVID, but there are, I mean, they do Zoom versions, but there are like breakfast clubs for businesses where you can go on a Thursday or whatever on a breakfast and network with people. You can even go into businesses yourself. You can walk down the high street, see which, I mean, it depends again what your job is. We're talking about web design here for an example, but you can see a dog grooming shop and look and then think, I'll go and check that on Google. And if they're not on there, you can contact them. But then, like you say, you've got Facebook groups as well. Facebook groups, there's a lot of free.
Brilliant. That's a brilliant place. I get a fair bit of work from Facebook groups, actually. Okay. Well, that's it really for tonight. So quite a few takeaways in there. Hopefully you got some value from that. My name's been John Banks. I'm over at sidingcommand.com.
Yep, and I'm Andy Lehman. I'm over at freedomskillsacademy.com. And so that's episode 23. That was about client work. So there's a lot of positives to having that. And so just thank you very much for listening, and we shall speak to you again next week.
Thanks very much.